Hello friends, I'm going to speak about dynamics of disease transmission. Communicable diseases are transmitted from reservoir or source of infection to susceptible host. Here we can see that there are three links in chain of transmission, that is reservoir, modes of transmission and the susceptible host. Sources and reservoir. The starting point for the occurrence of a communicable disease is the existence of a reservoir or source of infection. The source of infection is defined as the person, animal, object, or substance from which an infectious agent passes or is disseminated to the host. A reservoir is defined as any person, animal, arthropod, plant, soil, or substance, or combination of these in which an infectious agent lives and multiplies, on which it depends primarily for survival and where it reproduces itself in such a manner that it can be transmitted to a susceptible host. In short, the reservoir is the natural habitat in which the organism metabolizes and replicates. Middle East respiratory syndrome related coronaviruses is known to be transmitted from camels. Severe acute respiratory syndrome related coronaviruses is known to be transmitted from civet cats. Ebola virus diseases are known to be transmitted from bats. Reservoir and source are not always synonymous. For example, in hookworm infection, the reservoir is man, but the source of infection is the soil contaminated with infective larvae. Whereas in tetanus, the reservoir and source are the same, that is soil. In typhoid fever, the reservoir of infection may be a case or carrier, but the source of infection may be feces or urine of patients or contaminated food, milk, or water. Thus, the term source refers to the immediate source of infection and may or may not be a part of the reservoir. Homologous reservoir is applied when another member of the same species is the victim. As for example, man is the principal reservoir for some enteric pathogens, example Vibrio cholerae. The term heterologous is applied when the infection is derived from a reservoir other than man, as for example, animals and birds infected with salmonella. Reservoir may be of three types, that is, human reservoir, animal reservoir, and reservoir in non-living things. Human reservoir. By far, the most important source or reservoir of infection for humans is man himself. He may be a case or carrier. Man is often described as his own enemy because most of the communicable diseases of which man is hired to are contracted from human sources. Cases. A case is defined as a person in the population or study group identified as having the particular disease, health disorder, or condition under investigation. A variety of criteria, example, clinical, biochemical, laboratory registries and notifications, abstracts of clinical records, surveys of the general population, population screening, and reporting of defects, etc., may be used to identify cases. Broadly, the presence of infection in a host may be clinical, subclinical, or latent. These variations in the manifestations of disease are referred to as spectrum of disease or gradient of infection. Clinical illness. The clinical illness may be mild or moderate, typical or atypical, severe or fatal, depending upon the gradient of involvement. Epidemiologically, mild cases may be more important sources of infection than severe cases. This is because they are ambulant and spread the infection wherever they go, whereas severe cases are usually confined to bed. The subclinical cases. The subclinical cases are variously referred to as inapparent, covert, missed, or abortive cases. They are equally important as sources of infection. The disease agent may multiply in the host but does not manifest itself by signs and symptoms. The disease agent is eliminated and contaminates the environment in the same way as clinical cases. Persons who are thus sick, unbeknown to themselves and others, contribute more than symptomatic patients to the transmission of infection to others, and what is more, they do not appear in any of the statistics. Subclinical cases play a dominant role in maintaining the chain of infection, that is, endemicity in the community. Subclinical infection can be detected only by laboratory tests, for example, recovery of the organism, antibody response, biochemical and skin sensitivity tests. Barring a few, for example, measles, subclinical infection occurs in most infectious diseases. In some diseases, for example, rubella, mumps, polio, hepatitis A and hepatitis B, Japanese encephalitis, influenza, diphtheria, a great deal of subclinical infection occurs. Since subclinical infections occur frequently during a person's lifetime, they are responsible for the immunity shown by adult humans to a variety of disease-producing microbes. Latent infection. The term latent infection must be distinguished from subclinical infection. In latent infection, the host does not shed the infectious agent which lies dormant within the host without symptoms and often without demonstrable presence in blood, tissues, or bodily secretions of the host. For example, latent infections due to slow viruses, encyclostomiasis, herpes simplex, etc. The role of latent infection in the perpetuation of certain infectious agents appears to be great. Now, let's have a look at certain important epidemiological terminologies related to it. Primary case. The term primary case refers to the first case of a communicable disease introduced into the population unit being studied. The term index case refers to the first case to come to the attention of the investigator. It is not always the primary case. Secondary cases. Secondary cases are those developing from contact with primary case. Suspect case. A suspect case is an individual or a group of individuals who has all of the signs and symptoms of a disease or condition yet has not been diagnosed as having the disease or had the cause of symptoms connected to the suspected pathogen. Whatever may be the gradient of infection, all infected persons, whether clinical or subclinical, are potential sources of infection because the disease agent is leaving the body through frequent stools, vomiting, coughing, sneezing, or other means and is potentially available for transfer to a new host. Carriers. In some diseases, either due to inadequate treatment or immune response, the disease agent is not completely eliminated, leading to a carrier state. A carrier is defined as an infected person or animal that harbors a specific infectious agent in the absence of discernible clinical disease and serves as a potential source of infection for others. As a rule, carriers are less infectious than cases, but epidemiologically, they are more dangerous than cases because they escape recognition and continuing as they do to live a normal life among population or community. They readily infect the susceptible individuals over a wider area and longer period of time under favorable conditions. The typhoid Mary is a classic example of a carrier. The elements in a carrier state are the presence in the body of a disease agent, the absence of recognizable symptoms, and signs of disease, and the shedding of the disease agent in the discharges or excretions, thus acting as a source of infection for other persons. Carriers may be classified according to the type, duration, and portal of exit. According to type, carriers are classified as incubatory, convalescent, and healthy. According to duration, carriers are classified as temporary and chronic. And according to portal of exit, carriers are classified into urinary, intestinal, respiratory, and others. Classification of carriers on the basis of its type. Incubatory carriers. They are those who shed the infectious agent during the incubation period of disease. That is, they are capable of infecting others before the onset of illness. This usually occurs during the last few days of the incubation period. For example, measles, mumps, polio, pertussis, influenza, diphtheria, and hepatitis B. Convalescent carriers. That is, those who continue to shed the disease agent during the period of convalescence. For example, typhoid fever, dysentery, that includes bacillary and amoebic, cholera, diphtheria, and whooping cough. In these diseases, clinical recovery does not coincide with bacteriological recovery. A convalescent carrier can pose a serious threat to the unprotected household members and those in the immediate environment, as in the case of a typhoid fever patient who may excrete the bacilli for 6 to 8 weeks. This highlights the importance of bacteriological surveillance of carriers after clinical recovery. Healthy carriers. Healthy carriers emerge from subclinical cases. They are victims of subclinical infection who have developed carrier state without suffering from overt disease but are nevertheless shedding the disease agent. Example: poliomyelitis, cholera, meningococcal meningitis, salmonellosis, and diphtheria. It is well to remember that a person whose infection remains subclinical may or may not be a carrier. For example, in polio, the infection may remain subclinical after the person may act as a temporary carrier by virtue of shedding the organism. On the other hand, in tuberculosis, most patients with positive tubercular test do not actively disseminate tubercle bacilli and therefore are not labeled as carrier. Classification of carriers on the basis of duration. Temporary carriers and chronic carriers. In temporary carriers are those who shed the infectious agent for short periods of time. In this category may be included the incubatory, convalescent, and healthy carriers. Now, chronic carriers. A chronic carrier is one who excretes the infectious agent for indefinite periods. Chronic carrier state occurs in a number of diseases. For example, typhoid fever, hepatitis B, dysentery, cerebrospinal meningitis, malaria, gonorrhea, etc. Chronic carriers are far more important sources of infection than cases. The longer the carrier state, the greater the risk to the community. Some carriers excrete the infectious agent only intermittently and some continuously. The duration of the carrier state varies with the disease. In typhoid fever and hepatitis B, the chronic carrier state may last for several years. In chronic dysentery, it may last for a year or longer. In diphtheria, the carrier state is associated with infected tonsils. In typhoid fever, with gallbladder disease. Chronic carriers are known to reintroduce disease into areas which are otherwise free of infection. For example, malaria. Therefore, their early detection and treatment are essential to limit the spread of infection. Now, what are pseudocarriers? Carriers of avirulent organisms are called pseudocarriers. Pseudocarriers are not important epidemiologically. Classification of carriers on the basis of portal of exit. Carriers may also be classified according to the portal of exit of the infectious agent. Thus, we have urinary carriers, intestinal carriers, respiratory carriers, nasal carriers, etc. Skin eruptions, open wounds, and blood are also portals of exit. In typhoid fever, the urinary carrier is more dangerous than an intestinal carrier. A typhoid carrier working in a food establishment or waterworks is more dangerous than a typhoid carrier working in an office establishment. Thus, the portal of exit and the occupational status of the carrier are important epidemiological considerations. Animal reservoir. The source of infection may sometimes be animals and birds. These, like human sources of infection, may be cases or carriers. The diseases and infections which are transmissible to men from vertebrates are called zoonosis. There are over 100 zoonotic diseases which may be conveyed to men from animals and birds. The best known examples are rabies, yellow fever, and influenza. The role of pigs and ducks in the spread of epidemic and pandemic influenza, both as reservoirs, carriers, and amplifying hosts, is now well established. Pigeons in cities can lead to infection with chlamydia. Dust mites from them can cause allergy in men. Ornithosis and arboviruses can be transmitted to men from various birds. Wild birds, in particular, are important hosts in transmission cycles of most of the mosquito-borne encephalitis and several mosquito-borne undifferentiated febrile disease. Histoplasmosis is carried all over the world by birds. As birds migrate from one locality to another, they may carry ticks infected with viruses and rickettsia that may cause disease in humans. In short, the migrations and movements of animals and birds may carry serious epizootical and epidemiological risks. There is evidence that genetic recombination between animal and human viruses might produce new strains of viruses, for example, influenza viruses. Middle East respiratory syndrome related coronaviruses is known to be transmitted from camels. Severe acute respiratory syndrome related coronaviruses is known to be transmitted from civet cats. Ebola virus diseases are known to be transmitted from bats. Reservoir in non-living things. Soil and inanimate matter can also act as reservoirs of infection. For example, soil may harbor agents that cause tetanus, anthrax, coccidiomycosis, and mycetoma. Thank you.